This episode of Eat the Rules is brought to you by You on Fire. You on Fire is the online group coaching program that I run that gives you a step-by-step way of building up your self-worth beyond your appearance. With personalized coaching from me, incredible community support, and lifetime access to the program so that you can get free from body shame and live life on your own terms. Get details on what's included and sign up for the next cycle at summerinnanen.com/you on fire. I'd love to have you in that group. This is Eat the Rules, a podcast about body image, self-worth, anti-dieting, and intersectional feminism. I am your host, Summer Innanen, a professionally trained coach specializing in body image, self-worth, and confidence, and the best-selling author of Body Image Remix. If you're ready to break free of societal standards and stop living behind the number on your scale, then you have come to the right place. Welcome to the show. This is episode 224, and I am back with my good friend Vinny, and we are broadcasting episode 3 of our Death to Diets series. In this episode, we're talking all about before and after pictures. We talk about what we think about weight loss before and after pictures and our own experiences with them. And we also talk about those body positive before and afters, showing people who used to be thin, who have gained weight and are now happier. Are they good? Are they bad? Or are they something else? Join us in this episode as we explore it. You can find all the links and resources mentioned at summerinnanen.com/224. Before we begin, I want to give a shout out to Mrs. Roper, who left this review, Transformational and Sustaining. This podcast connects the dots on so many levels. It will radically rewire your perspective on bodies, feminism, and diet culture. It will sharpen your ability to recognize the oppressive messages you hear every day or grew up with, and will give you the political, philosophical, and empathetic reasoning to turn away from these messages and to unite against them. I have shared this podcast with a number of friends who have found it transformational. Bravo. Thank you so much. I love reading that. I really, really appreciate that review. You can leave a review for this show as well by going to iTunes, search for Eat the Rules, then click ratings and reviews and click to leave a review. I would appreciate it so much. You can also help me out by subscribing to this show via whatever platform you use to listen to podcasts. And if you haven't already done so, make sure that you grab the free 10-day body confidence makeover at summerinnanen.com/freebies with 10 steps to take right now to feel better in your body. I feel really rusty recording this intro because I haven't recorded an intro in probably about 6 weeks now, because everything that you've been listening to was recorded like a while ago. I'd sort of like batched a whole bunch of episodes, and now I'm doing the same thing again. And wow, it's amazing like how much a bunch of time can just make you forget how to do something. So anyways, felt a little rusty doing that, but everything in this episode goes really smooth. We had such a great discussion on this one, really just dissecting before and after pictures and your feedback on them, what you think of them, both weight loss ones as well as the more like quote unquote body positive ones that we see. So I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. Let's get started with the show.
Today, just update the cookie before and afters is what we're talking about today.
Yes. And it's timely because I feel like there's been a lot of them this month. I don't know about you.
Do you think? I don't see these. Well, that's not true. I see the body positive ones.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because we're going to talk about both sides of the coin. So why don't we do our little intro, introduce the show, introduce who we are, and then we'll dive into the hot topic.
Let's do it.
Okay. So this is Death to Diets. We are both working in a field where we help people who are typically have sort of been chronic dieters, who have realized that, diets don't work and they're fed up with it and they're done with that and they want to just feel better about themselves and live their lives and heal their relationship with food and their bodies. And so we created this show to really just call out the bullshit that we see in diet culture and in the dieting industry and the weight loss industry. This is never to shame people who engage in diets or want to lose weight. We never shame the individual. We never judge the individual. This is more about talking about the cultural issue as we see it and how that affects the way we feel about ourselves and the problematic messaging. And so I'm Summer Inanen. I'm a professionally trained coach specializing in body image, self-worth, and confidence. And I also host my own podcast called Eat the Rules. Vinny, what about you?
You've got your elevator pitch down. Anytime I'm like, who am I? I'm like, oh. You're just like, I'm Summer Inanen, la 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 la. And I'm just there daydreaming thinking, yeah, Summer, there she is with all of her vowels in her name. So I'm Vinny Wellesby, formerly Victoria, and I am a fat activist, TEDx speaker, change maker, incredibly good looking, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
that is it. And we don't have any trigger warnings today because we're not going to be showing any before and after photos. We're just going to be talking about them, right? So
yes,
there's nothing that, we're not going to be talking about. I don't think so. No,
I don't think so. Yeah. So why did we come up with this topic?
I don't know. You came up with it, didn't you?
I'll tell you the story. I was getting on an airplane and I was like, I wanted a magazine. And I was at the airport and they had the People magazine and it had Betty White on the cover. And it was so weird because it was like the day or two after Betty White had passed away. But it was the cover celebrating her turning 100 because obviously they had like put this magazine together prior to her passing. So anyways, I bought the magazine and one of the sections, which was interestingly enough buried in the back, was the section about like these people lost half their size. And I don't know if you remember this, but that used to always be the cover story for People magazine in January. Like I remember that was always on the cover. So it was interesting that it was buried in the back. There was no mention of it on the cover. At least I don't think so. And
Betty White did her badassness and was like, bitches, I'm leaving. Put me on the cover and put those other shit to the back.
Exactly.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. So I read it for research and it just got me like just super fired up about it. And I thought we could have a really cool discussion because we also see kind of like in the reverse before and after in the body positive world. So people showing, like I used to be thin and now I've gained weight and I'm actually happier. And we wanted to have a discussion around both of those things because it's just sort of interesting the impact that these pictures and the narrative that the impact that it has on us.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I have been exposed to this recently because I don't know if you know, Summer, but you can actually check out magazines from the library. And so I was like, do you know what? I'm going to look at some really trashy magazines because I haven't looked at them in years and you don't have to pay for them. So I was like, let's look at this one. Gay Times. Yes, please. Fishing Weekly. So I just like skimming lots of different magazines and that I did see that stuff. And I used to love before and after pictures. That would be my favorite thing.
I was wondering, did you? Because I'm trying to remember if I did. I don't know.
I loved it. Yes, because I used to be like, oh my God, they used to be such a fat loser like me. And now look at them. Like they've changed their life around. If only I do what they did, then I can be like them. So yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So you used to actually find that inspiring.
Oh yeah. I loved it. Whenever I'd get the Weight Watchers magazine, and it was my goal to be in the Weight Watchers magazine because I was like, I am my what do they call it? The leader was like, oh, you could be in the magazine. And I was like, yes. And thank fuck it never happened because I didn't quit, diets. It just didn't happen.
Yeah.
But anyway. Yeah,
well,
so.
I worked as a nutritionist like 12 years ago or 10, 12 years ago. And I used to take before and after pictures of my clients and like do like challenges where we would take before and after pictures. And so I feel really bad about it now because I realize like how damaging and problematic it was. But
I can't even imagine you doing that, Summer. Like, it's just so foreign to everything I know about you.
Yeah, but it's like when you're like, when that's your business, like that, I mean, that's what a lot of people use to sell like nutrition services and things like that. And the kind of like dirty behind the scenes of it is like, you know, you realize that clients don't actually stay that way, that it's like, it's a yo-yo cycle. And so, you know, thankfully I had my own like awakening with it that then allowed me to, you know, make amends, hopefully, and move away from that. But I absolutely was guilty of that because I just didn't, I was so in it myself in terms of thinking that like, well, this is, you know, I'm helping people get healthy and I'm helping them be confident and all this stuff. But the reality is like, I would say the vast majority of them still struggled with food, still hated themselves and ended up gaining weight back. Like it was never permanent.
So what did you, when you were taking those photos, you mentioned, oh, you know, it was temporary, that weight loss. Did you know that at the time?
No.
Or were you like, that's it. Now they've started their life and they're going to be amazing.
Yeah, no, I was like, and they just need to keep doing it. And like, you know, and so that that's why I empathize with people in this industry because I think if you don't know better, you don't know better. Right. Which is why like, I don't like to kind of shame individuals. Like I prefer to just call out the overall issue because like I was in that frame of mind where I was like, oh no, like, and I was doing it from like the health perspective. And even like I pulled out some of the quotes from like the People magazine I read where it's like, no, we're not using diets. Like my slogan was like, it was like something around like no, like it was a non-dieting slogan. Like I can't remember exactly what it was. My in-laws had a postcard, one of my old marketing postcards from when my nutrition business, they had it like I found one in their basement and I saw the slogan and I was like, oh my God, like I used to say that. Like I shouldn't even remember, but, and that's the same thing that was kind of being, some of the stuff that was being echoed in this People magazine was that it was like, one of them was like, I swapped fad diets for counting macronutrients. And like, you have to get rid of it. I was like, yeah, it's like,
I swapped fad diets for another fad diet, but I don't believe it's a fad diet.
What? Yeah. Or like, it was like, you have to lose a diet mentality. And this person was doing like what's deemed like a very restrictive diet. I won't mention which one, but I was like, what?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's so funny,
they co-opted
the mind trickery that we do. And even, you know, you saying that, you were saying it's a non-diet thing. You were ahead of your time, Summer, because, you know, all the diets are doing it now. But if you were saying like, I'm a non-diet diet all of those years ago, then I mean, you were on the pulse. You were doing it.
Well, hopefully they'll find their way out like I did.
Yeah.
I was an early adopter of getting out of that garbage, but yeah, it was, it's like, it's interesting to reflect back on it and just realize like, I feel really bad. Like I hope I've been able to, you know.
Oh yeah. I mean, you've like paid your penance. Oh my God, like 100 times over. It's just so interesting to think about the way that we were thinking back then. And I found a note because I like keeping notes, you know, on the notes app, I like keeping notes and I've got notes back to 2013 or something. And so I looked for a search for a word. I can't remember what it was, like health or something. Yeah. Cause I was looking for health at every size in my notes. And I had written this thing to myself about, you know, what negative thoughts and beliefs do I have about myself? And one of my negative thoughts or beliefs was, I will never be thin. And then I wrote myself like a pep talk of, oh my God, yes, you are going to be thin. I mean, come on, you're going to be so thin and you're going to work out every single day and people are going to say, how do you do it? And you're going to be like, it's so effortless. And I was like talking about how healthy I was. And I was like, working out every day, like walking around with a six pack, like what the heck? I couldn't even remember that I wrote that. And I was thinking like that. I was like really trying to positive, you know, manifest being thin.
Yeah.
And it was only like, I don't know, 7 years ago or something that I was thinking like
wow.
that, which is bananas to me.
Yeah.
And I thought I was like, I probably thought I was body positive at the time. So anyway.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah. Right. It's like, it gets all muddled. I mean, it gets co-opted and muddled and we convince ourselves of things just to convince ourselves of things.
Yeah, we have to, right? We have to. So we both asked our audiences, what do you think of weight loss before and after pictures? I've got my results here. And I said, do you love them or do you hate them? And 13% said love and 87% said hate. So what do you think of weight loss before and after pictures? 13% said love, 87% said hate. And then a couple of people messaged me saying, oops, I said love, but I meant to say hate. So we can presume that number is a little bit lower than 13%. Let's say 10%. And I really get that kind of the love thing of seeing the before and after pictures. It feels so intoxicating, especially if you're new to this stuff, because like I mentioned at the beginning, I just would feel so inspired by seeing these everyday people, what I would see as them changing their lives. But the reality is probably very different, isn't it, Summer?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like it's one season of their life. And I think we all know that there's like the after and then like what happens after that, you know, what happens like 2 years after that.
The after all.
What happens 5 years after that. And I think you and I both know that the majority of people blame it on themselves. They're like, well, you know, I just didn't try hard enough, or, you know, I didn't have enough willpower. And the reality is that like none of those things are true. Your body was just legitimately trying to keep you alive, and that you weren't meant to be like on that diet, which is how I felt like, which is how I feel when I see these images of these people in this magazine. And I'm like, they tell this story and the narrative is like, the words they use are like, I finally love myself. It's like Christmas morning, like, all, you know, like the, you know, and it sells that idea. And I almost feel bad. Like, I don't want to pity people, but I'm kind of like, oh, like, what's that going to look like in 2 years or 3 years? And you've been featured in this magazine. Like, you were like the poster child for success. It's like, how much more damaging is that to you if your body can't sustain that? Like, if, you know, which majority of our bodies can't without maintaining, you know, disordered behaviors, which for the most part, like, our body's going to fight back against.
Yeah, that's such a good point about, you know, they've been in a magazine and how much shame they probably feel after, because, you know, the after, the before and after, the after when, you know, 95% plus of those people are now bigger than their before picture. And like, that must feel really, really bad. And yeah, it makes me thankful that when I was doing all that dieting stuff, there wasn't, you know, I didn't have social media and all that type of stuff. But I was still a massive bell end about it and told everyone about the fact that I was losing weight and I was such a good person. So, you know. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's like what you're supposed to do, right? Like, share with other people, stay accountable.
Yeah. And I wonder, like, when I see before and afters, instead of being like, oh my God, I love it, I'm just like you, I have such deep compassion for that person, because I just think exactly what you said. What are they going to be feeling like in 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Because it's probably going to be a lot of shame, and, you know, hopefully they found another way. But it's kind of like hoping for them that maybe this is the kind of final straw before they find fat positivity and anti-diet and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, you never know, right?
Yeah, because for a lot of people, it's a lifetime sentence. Membership. More grim is to call it a life sentence, but
yeah. Did you ever, Summer, when you were taking the before and after pictures, because you know before and after pictures, the before, the person's like, oh, you know,
looks
like
sad.
Grey clothes with holes in, like they're covered in shit stains, like they haven't brushed their hair in 3 weeks, they got bits of straw coming out of their hair, and, you know, they've got shit in their eyes and they're dribbling and stuff. And then the after picture, they've got, you know, full makeup and all that type of stuff, and probably posed and probably photoshopped. Would you ever, like, in the first picture be like, you know, go on, stick your gut out a bit more?
No, you know, no. Mine weren't like that at all. Mine were like, you know, like you look how you look, and then you look how you look. Like, I didn't curate those in any way. No,
Oh, that's a shame.
because it was more in my mind, it was more for them to see the difference,
yeah.
versus like something to use as like a, like
A
marketing thing. But, social media wasn't really around much then. So thank goodness, not in the way that it is now. And so
if there was social media, maybe you'd have like a sack in the back that you'd bring out and be like, put on this like ugly sack and like this, like on The Biggest Loser, and they just make them wear really, I don't know where the fuck they get these things from. Like,
put this bronzer on. I'm just gonna like use this spray tanner on you in the after to like make you really like I'm gonna like contour abs on your body. Make you look really toned. No. No. And I like, for me personally, I'm trying to think like if I must have found before and afters inspiring, but I also feel like there was like a few years of time where I was just perpetually frustrated because like it didn't matter what I did, like my body wouldn't change anymore. And I feel like there was a point in time around there where I actually like, they made me feel even more inadequate because it was just a reminder of like, see, you can't do it. Like there's something defective in you. So, but now when I see them, like I'm more just like, oh, like I know what that's like. Like I know what happens.
Yeah. And I'm if any come up in my social media, I'm immediately block. Oh God, I don't want to see that shit. Because even me, who I do this work constantly, that type of stuff can still be triggering. And so I'm like, get that out of my brain. So I don't know. I just think for other people who are still on the journey, and if they haven't curated their social media and they've still got things like that, because it's kind of, like, oh, I kind of like looking at it, how much that's affecting people to still see before and after pictures. So totally, my advice is, if you still have anything like that, because, like, oh, I know it's like a guilty pleasure to see it, I just really like looking at it, just get rid of that shit. It's probably not doing anything good for your brain.
Yes. And my survey was similar. It was like, actually it was stronger. It was 96% dislike and 4% inspiring. And someone said that it triggers feelings of not being good enough and it takes them right back to where they were when they were in that headspace. So yeah, I mean, obviously our results are going to be biased because the majority of people that follow us have similar belief systems, but
yeah. Cause I was surprised. Like 13% of mine said love. I was like,
yeah.
Did you read the thing? Probably.
They might have read it wrong because you put love first. Like when I saw the screen capture of yours, it was a little like my mind would have thought the hate would be first, so you probably did get a couple people who hit it incorrectly.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah. So yeah. So I think your results are probably the most accurate for our type of audience. But I think in the world in general, I think people probably be like 50-50 or even more that like him, right?
I would think so. Yeah, there's like a whole like good for them like mentality. Like it's still seen as like an accomplishment. Like your body is an accomplishment, and So yeah, I unfortunately, I would agree that it is probably skews more heavily towards people finding them inspiring.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately. And I've just realized that I look at celebrity before and after pictures of, here's a picture of a celebrity when they were 20 and here's a picture of them now that they're 40. I just realized that I look at those pictures.
Oh, what makes you do that?
Shit, I don't know. Like I think I see it more as, oh, isn't it interesting what the hell?
I don't see those links. I don't think I've ever
It's on my Instagram feed, and so it'd be like, oh, celebrities when they were 20 and celebrities when they're now, and it's like, oh, Helen Mirren is now 80 and look at her when she was 20. So it's kind of like, oh, look at what celebrities look like when they were young. And
okay. That makes more sense. Yeah.
That makes more good. I was like, oh my God, have I like discovered some like fucked up thing that No, I'm okay.
You're good. Should we talk about the opposite then? Like the pictures that we see that show the body positive before and afters, where someone was like, I was unhappy when I was thinner and now I've gained weight and I'm happier and more confident. Like,
yeah.
What do you think of those?
Yeah, but you know what, to begin with, when I was new to body positivity, I used to be like, yes, oh my God, this is amazing. And now I'm like a little bit more nuanced in my feelings about it of, you know, what they're saying is, what they're saying, if we take it on a kind of surface level, is I'm happy and it doesn't matter what I look like.
Yeah.
But there is still that message that's underneath there of, I used to have an asset, yet I wasn't happy. And now I don't have that asset, which is a thin body, and I've learned to be happy even though I'm missing an asset. So it's not breaking down the assumption that having a smaller body is inherently good. And so it needs to be, I think if people show them like before and after, when, you know, I used to be really thin and now I was miserable, there needs to be a more of a dissection of, that's so interesting that I used to think that my body is an asset. And well, I don't know if they even had the dissection or the deeper look into it. I don't think they'd be posting the picture anyway.
No,
you know, because then it's like, oh, I'm still presenting my body as a thing to be consumed in a way that's not maybe helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, I did a couple of those in the beginning.
Love it.
And they would get like so much engagement. And when I stopped doing those, engagement went down. And I think it's like, so I get why people do them, because they are more likely to like go viral, get more followers, like it sells the message. And so I get that as well. But why I stopped doing them like several years ago was because it was like this idea of like, you know, body positivity needs to be about centering the most marginalized bodies. And like, as a straight size person, like me, like highlighting that narrative around my body, like doesn't really do anything for for the movement. Right. So like my own personal like awareness around that made me realize like, oh shit, like I don't want to do that anymore. And it was still putting the value in my body. It was still putting like, you know, the identity and my value in how I looked. And I didn't want that to be the thing that like I was known for. I wanted it to be, you know, the skills that I had and the, you know, the perspectives that I had around this topic. So it was like, I think it was probably at least 5 years ago now that I like announced it on social media. Like, I will not be doing these pictures anymore. And here's what I've learned and here's why. And yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And I wonder as well, how many people who are new to the idea of body positivity see in the before picture of the smaller bodied person, oh yeah, I'd like to look like that. And then they see the after of someone who is a higher weight and they're like, fuck no. If that means that if I need to learn to, you know, stop dieting and accept myself, it means I'm going to gain weight. Well, I'm not going to do it. And that's not always the outcome of intuitive eating or body acceptance. It's like there's a million different outcomes, right? And so, yeah. And I think as well, it would probably reinforce the message that accepting your body means that you know, that's something that it means you have to give up, quote unquote, give up having your current body. And that's not always a reality.
Yeah.
It's complicated, right?
It is complicated. And actually one thing that I really appreciated, somebody commented when I posted the survey, which the results of my survey were 71% of people disliked those and 29% found them inspiring. And so one person wrote, which I think captured the essence of like what we're saying really well. I used to like how it displayed joy that someone experiences in a larger body. However, that I feel now that can just be conveyed through the after, like just by showing like, you know,
yes,
your body, like, you know, just having joy in your body instead of that narrative of like associating it with like a particular size change or anything like that.
It's almost a language that we have learned to speak of body comparison, that even though we're out of diet culture, we still want to do the body comparison shots. Like we can't help it, you know, because it's just such a language that we speak of. Yeah, consuming people's bodies. And my people said, when I said, what do you think of body positive before and afters that show weight gain? 36% said they love and 64% said that they hate. and the comments were, either way, they are conveying that there is a right or wrong way for a body to look. And it just feels like the same narrative that your body size is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the cultural idea of the before and after is still harmful. Yeah. So all of this stuff that we're saying.
Yeah, I know.
And
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think there's a difference between someone who their before is they were living in a bigger body, and thereafter is they're living in a bigger body, versus someone who is straight sized, showing still another straight sized, slightly bigger straight sized body. I think there's a difference in harm created there between, oh, look at me now, I'm so fat, when they're still straight sized. Because then someone like me will see, a fat person might see that straight sized body and be like, oh yeah, look at you accepting that hideous body. Really? Like, I've never had a body like that. Like, really? What would you think of my body if you think that you're accepting this? You're like a charity worker accepting that hideous body that you have, but clearly you have a normative, socially acceptable body,
That's exactly what I was going to say. I feel like in a lot of cases, there's still some dysmorphia going on, because it's like someone who's like a size 2 going to a size 4 or something. And they're like, and that's not to judge them at all. Like, that's not to judge people experiencing that, because that, I get that, like, you can experience those levels of shame and whatnot. But from taking the outsider's perspective, or thinking about like, what would someone who is fat feel like? How do they feel? How would they feel seeing this? I think is really, it's a really important consideration, because it's like, it's exactly to your point.
Yeah. It's like that show. I never really watched it, but This Is Us with Chrissy Metz. Did you ever watch that?
I never watched it. No.
There's a lot of fat phobia in it. So, but I watched it. I watched like maybe the first season. Anyway, they go to a diet club, and it's lots of fat people. And then there's like one thin person who's like, oh my God, I'm so ugly. And everyone, the fat people are having to comfort her and like, no, you're pretty. And it's just like, kind of feels like that. And that kind of segues into the thing that actually gets on my tits. And like, where I'm like, oh, I really wish that people wouldn't do this, like, because it's very, very harmful. And that is when influencers, it's almost, always influencers, twist themselves into like pretzels. They bend themselves over 100 times to try and get a tiny little stomach roll, which is normally just their skin. And they post that picture saying, oh my God, hashtag I'm so brave for going out with this, I've learned to love and accept my body, even though that, look at this role that is here. And also the pictures where it's like, oh, look how bloated I was at 2 p.m. And then, oh, look at 8 p.m. my stomach is so flat. Oh, it's only because I have a uterus. And so if you're fat, don't worry. It's probably only because you have a uterus. You're not actually fat. LOL. I'm just like, what? Stop that now.
Yes. I don't see those pictures anymore, thankfully. But I did a bit of research for a podcast episode I did recently, where I looked up the hashtags. Like, I went and searched the hashtags like body positivity and stuff like that. And yeah, I definitely still found like some of the stuff. Yeah, there was actually, it made me really enraged, actually. So, but I don't really follow that stuff anymore, because it never really resonated with me much anyways, because I could see that you don't actually have a role if you have to create a role. Like, if you have to bend over, or you have to like squeeze your thigh to create cellulite and say like, you should love your cellulite. It's like, that's not really, but it keeps the focus on the body, which is my problem with the whole mainstream body positivity thing anyways. But like, I mean, if you like that stuff, you like it. And, it kind of, this all sort of reminded me of like Do you remember the body image movement, like the woman from the body image movement from Australia?
Yeah.
And like the reason why like she became so popular was because she had that viral photo of like a reverse before and after. Like one of them was from when she was doing her like weight competition, like bodybuilding competition days, and then one after when she wasn't. And like it was like it went viral. It was like news, like viewed like millions and millions of times. And it's just so funny how I feel like maybe the times have changed since then, but it's just so funny how at the time, like, cause she was still straight sized, that it's like, oh my God, like straight sized woman, like accepts her body. And it's like in like all these news outlets. It's like, what?
Yeah. Like, oh my God, you're so inspiring. And
but it just speaks to how messed up the culture is, because it's like, that is like so newsworthy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and if she was fat, there's no way in hell any news coverage, or if the news coverage was, it'd be like, look at this person who used to be so healthy and now look, she's really let herself go. And so that would only work if you still had a thin body, but a little bit chubby here and there in the right places, you know, because we have to have like an hourglass figure, right? And that is so true. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember when her movie came to Vancouver, didn't it? Did we go and watch that?
No.
Yeah. I did.
I saw it at home, so I definitely didn't watch it in the. I think I was away or something, because I remember I was going to go with you. And
yeah. But that is so true. And at that time, I didn't pick up on that. And I know that would have got on my tip. I did.
Mm-hmm. And I know someone like, I know there's another person that a similar thing, like, and they went viral, and it was like, got a book deal and like all this stuff. And they were like maybe a size 6 or something, like maybe like, it's like, woman embraces her body. It's like, what?
Yeah.
But I say what, like, not like I'm judging the person. That's not what I mean. It's like, come on, like that's newsworthy. Like, please, like the tide needs to be shifted so much more than that.
Yeah. It's almost like people that's all that society at the moment can take, right? Like a straight sized person who is not, you know, buff, accepting themselves. That's like a good news story. But anything more, that would be seen as dangerous, because we're encouraging people to be gluttons and whatever else people think that fatness represents. So like, I can kind of get it, you know, why the media does that.
Yeah. Well, if you think about the influencers, like with the most followers, they typically still really meet Eurocentric beauty standards, like pretty faces, like white, like a lot of blonde hair, you know, kind of skew like a little bit younger, and just have like, you know, like still a straight size body, but more like not like the, you know, stick thin or musculature, like ideal that you would see, that like you'd kind of typically think of when you think of the thin ideal. So but it's interesting when you start critiquing that stuff and you realize like, are we really changing the culture here, or are we just like kind of upholding the same thing, but like with 10 extra pounds or with like 20 extra pounds? And I think that's like, you know, the more that you sort of get into this and the more that you kind of build that like, you know, cultural awareness, the more that you start to see that it's just kind of the same old thing, but just packaged in a slightly different way. And again, it's like nothing against those people. I know they make a big difference in people's lives and whatnot, and I think it's like how you curate your own feed too. Like I tend to follow people who are like have more of a social justice message as opposed to like love your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think about, you know, I'm always on the fence about this, because I always, you know, we need people who do the light and fluffy stuff, right? We need people who are doing the more quote unquote palatable stuff, because I mean, if it wasn't for those types of people, I probably wouldn't be here, because if I had seen people who had really made me have to think deeply about fat phobia, I would have been scared off and been like, oh, I don't want to be like fat and horrible like them. You know, I would have run off and continued dieting. And so I think we need those people, but then also the fact that we need them actively harms more marginalized fat people, because if we're centering smaller people, white people, able-bodied people, etc., it means that the spotlight is naturally not on the people who are in the greatest need of justice and resources and all that type of stuff. And so it's like, I'm always struggling with it of being like, we need it, but it's really harmful. We you know, and so I think those types of people, if they are able to recognize that and be like, okay, right, you know, I just have this body and this is it, you know, whatever. Let's bring on, you know, more diversity in my feed, and let's use my platform and my influence to help people with more marginalized identities than myself. That would be amazing. That'd make me happy.
Yes. Yeah, I 100% see that. Yeah. Like you need the gateway, body positivity, because you're right. Right. And I'm sure, like, I'm trying to think back of my first kind of, you know, entry into that space. Like it probably was like someone like the body image movement woman who I can't remember her name. I think Taryn or something.
Taryn Brumfitt.
Yeah. Yeah. So like it probably was because, you know, it was like, oh, okay. Like it was like safe. And then you start to kind of like, hopefully people sort of start to move along the spectrum and start to like see the, you know, the real like social justice piece of it, and start to follow other people who are speaking more to the political side of it and how to actually, you know, advocate and make change in the culture.
But, you know, even saying that, it's like, but then also the more fluffy stuff is making a change because it's kind of slowly moving things along. But then again, exactly what I just said, it's also harming people. I don't know.
There's not a clean answer, right?
No,
like, because some people will argue that like, well, we just shouldn't be showing bodies, but it's like, but I think we need that too, because otherwise like the mainstream media controls the bodies that you see. So you need people who are also showing their body. Like, it's nuanced. And I think it's like, it's not, there's no one knows of one like right way to look at things. I think that people benefit from different things in their own journey, and you have to find what works for you, and hopefully eventually get to one of us, you know?
Yes. And I really appreciate like the dietitians that I work with are exclusively thin people, and I appreciate so much when they bring me in as a fat person. It's because it's kind of like with their body, they're vouching for me, right? Because like their audience probably couldn't stomach a fat person, maybe where there are some, obviously lots of them could, but some of them maybe wouldn't navigate or, you know, towards me, but they're using their body almost as a kind of vouching for me. Yeah. And I think that's an awesome, cool thing. And I really appreciate it. And it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's definitely good people out there. So that's positive. All right.
Yes.
Good conversation. Anything else? I feel like we talked about everything we wanted to talk about.
No, you know what? I really like talking to you, Sama. I really like having our little episodes. So
they're fun.
It's like, where can people find you?
They can find me at thebodyimagecoach.com, and my podcast is called Eat the Rules, and I'm at Summer Inanen on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. What about you?
Have you seen this new... Sorry, I'm doing all the time interrupting you. Like at the end of the sentence, I'm like, oh! Have you seen this new book? I think you'll like it. Laziness Does Not Exist.
The book?
Dr. Devon Price, yeah.
I have heard of it. I think Matt McGorry posted it like a few months ago, and I remember bookmarking it, but I haven't read it. No. Is it good?
Yeah, I'm reading it right now, and just, it's totally to do with rules, and it's totally aligned with diet culture, and Dr. Devon Price is fat positive and all that. Yeah, anyway, it's really good.
Yeah, I've had a couple of people tell me that they really enjoyed it too, so I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. So where to find me is fiercefatty.com, on Instagram, Fierce Fatty, podcast Fierce Fatty, book Fierce Fatty. Yeah. So Fierce Fatty, my new name, Vinny Wellesby. Yeah, well, thank you for hanging out with us today.
Yeah.
Thanks for the chat, Summer.
Yeah, let us know what you think, and we'll be back for another episode soon.
Yeah, in a couple of weeks.
Rock on.
Thank you so much for being here and listening today. You can find all the links and resources mentioned at summerinnanen.com/224. We've got a few more episodes of the Death to Diet series coming up. I hope you're enjoying them. Let me know. I would love to hear, whether you've been enjoying them. I've received some feedback from some of you about how much you love them. So that's great. We certainly loved recording them. And there's some juicy topics coming out in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for those. Thanks again for being here today. Rock on. I'm Summer Innanen, and I want to thank you for listening today. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Summer Innanen. And if you haven't yet, go to Apple Podcasts, search Eat the Rules, and subscribe, rate, and review this show. I would be so grateful. Until next time, rock on.